pagkain ating ihahain, mga batang kulang sa timbang. Ating pakakainin ng Go, Grow, and Glow. Adolescent reproductive health ay gawing gabay at patnubay ng batang mausisa ay di maranasan. Ang early pregnancy ay maiiwasan. Kalusugan ay mahalaga sa edukasyon ng mga bata. Tayo na't magkaisa, halina tayo sumama. Tara na, okay na okay, Oplan kalusugan sa DepEd. Halina't alamin atin ang tuklasin, mga health programs ating palaganapin. Tara na, okay, Oplan kalusugan sa DepEd. Halina't alamin atin ang tuklasin, mga health programs ating palaganapin. National Drug Education Program or NDEP kung tawagin. Ito'y paigtingin mga bisyo'y alisin, sigarilyo at droga'y dapat nang buksain. Water sanitation and hygiene in schools, ating kompletuhin, 3 stars ay abutin. Malinis na tubig, segregated na toilet, group hand washing at may napkin na rin. Kalusugan ay mahalaga sa edukasyon ng mga bata. Tayo na't magkaisa, halina tayo sumama. Tara na, okay, Oplan kalusugan sa DepEd. Halina't alamin atin ang tuklasin, mga health programs ating palaganapin. Tara na, okay, Oplan kalusugan sa DepEd. Halina't alamin atin ang tuklasin, mga health programs ating palaganapin. Medical, dental, and nursing services na atin ding binibigay upang matugunan problemang pangkalusugan ng mga guro at kabataan. School mental health program, kamalayan ito'y bigyang diin. Isipang malusog para sa akin at sa'yo, kabataan at guro, tara usap tayo. Kalusugan ay mahalaga sa edukasyon ng mga bata. Tayo na't magkaisa, halina tayo sumama. Tara na, okay, Oplan kalusugan sa DepEd. Halina't alamin atin ang tuklasin, mga health programs ating palaganapin. Tara na, okay, Oplan kalusugan sa DepEd. Halina't alamin atin ang tuklasin, mga health programs ating palaganapin. Tara na, okay, Oplan kalusugan sa DepEd. Halina't alamin atin ang tuklasin, mga health programs ating palaganapin. Okay talaga sa DepEd. Okay talaga sa DepEd.
Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Kumusta po kayo sa inyong lugar? Ito po ay isang very challenging week para po sa marami sa atin sa nakalipas na mga araw. So katulad po ng ginagawa natin na pagbubukas ng panalangin sa bawat episode natin, hinihilingan ko po ang bawat isa na maglaan po tayo ng ilang minuto na isa po sa atin na mga pagsubok sa gitna ng pandemya na mayroon po tayo ngayon. So sakali po na mag-play po tayo ng ating video ng prayer, hinihilingan ko po ang bawat isa na magkaroon tayo ng maikling panahon ng katahimikan para alalahanin po ang sitwasyon ng atin pong mga kasama. Ayan. So katulad po ng naririnig natin every week, ang inyo pong narinig kanina ay jingle na nilikha po sa atin ng ating mga kasama sa DepEd, sina Ma'am Luz Biminda Ikawalo, Ma'am Everlina Hiltendes at Ma'am Elaine Joy Ikawalo. Ang music naman po ay pinerform para sa atin ni Ma'am Elaine Joy. Ang music ay kinompose para sa atin ni Ma'am Elaine Joy Ikawalo or inarrange na sa atin. At pinerform naman po ito ni Ma'am Rishaline Mayoral. So maraming salamat po sa ating mga kasama sa DepEd for creating such a beautiful song that captures the health and nutrition programs of the Department of Education. At kasama na nga po dyan ang National Drug Education Program, isa sa mga flagship programs ng Oplan Kalusugan sa Department of Education. Para po sa ating mga kasama na hindi po makakapanood ng live broadcast na ito ngayong hapon, pinapaalala po natin, pwede nyo pong balikan ang recording ng video na ito sa ating PDLMS or Professional Development Learning Management System ng Department of Education para po balikan ninyo at pwede po ninyong panoorin ulit. So we are excited po na makahabol po kayo. We understand na sa mga oras na ito, kayo po ay nakafocus sa inyong mga personal concerns sa inyong mga lugar or pwedeng brown out, but we understand that. So manood lang po kayo. Ngayong linggo po, mapalad po tayo kasi yung pagtatapos na po tayo ng ating NDEP Webinar series. Last episode na po ito for this season, kung tatawagin natin, for this first series. Last episode na po natin ngayon, and it is very timely kasi sumempo po tayo na ang linggong ito ay Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Week. Kitang-kita po natin sa Facebook ang iba-ibang celebrations ng iba-iba nating mga kasama na nakikita natin ang inyong mga post sa Facebook. Salamat po sa celebration po na inyong mga initiate sa gitna ng ating normal. Ang tema po ng ating celebration for this week, katulad po ng in-announce natin noong isang linggo, ay Better Knowledge for Better Care. And we hope na ang ating pong NDEP Webinar series ay nakakatulong, nakakapagdagdag sa ating knowledge para yung ultimately ang goal naman po talaga natin is magbigay ng better care. Kasi sabi natin it's all about health and wellness of our learners, of our personnel. So yung ine-emphasize natin from time to time na kaya naman tayo nag-aaral, kaya tayo merong sineshare na mga information sa ating NDEP Webinar series. It's really about providing care, taking care of the well-being, of the health of our learners. So this is our theme for this week. And it's very timely kasi we will close our NDEP Webinar series sa gitna ng pagdiriwang natin ng ating DAPC Week or Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Week. And it's very good na ma-emphasize natin it's always about better knowledge, yung ating evidence-based interventions, for better care driven by compassion, genuine concern, context of positive climate. Hindi ko na kailangang ulit-ulitin kasi our speaker for this afternoon, we're very lucky to have our first speaker in this webinar series to close, to encapsulate everything that we discussed in the past episodes para naman i-tapusin, i-wrap up yung ating mga discussion. So this is going to be a very fruitful afternoon and discussion with our resource person. For those who are just catching up, ipapakilala formally ang ating resource person later para mas makilala ulit natin siya in case na ngayon pa lang kayo nakapanood, nakahabol dito sa ating broadcast. But we hope you can go back to the previous episodes, no? Hindi lang dito sa episode na meron tayo ngayon. So, meron po tayong assignment na binigay sa inyo last week. Sabi natin, vlog about how you have taken a lesson from this series and how you have applied it in your respective context. So, pinagamit natin ang hashtag NDEP Web Series dito sa vlog na ito. We just want to share some of this, we would like to share some of these vlogs na nakuha po natin online. So we are excited na makita po, marinig ninyo some of our fellow colleagues and fellow health champions in DepEd talking about their learnings from the NDEP webinar series. And I think it's also good for our resource person to hear what you have to say based po sa experience ninyo in our NDEP webinar series. Panoorin po natin ang ilan sa mga videos na nakita po natin mula sa inyong mga shinare sa Facebook. All right, so let me just fix this. Mukhang meron lang tayong konting i-arrange sa ating video. Let's watch. Ayan, so that's teacher Estrella Gumopas from New Babuhay Elementary School. Panoorin naman natin ito from Ma'am Glenda Hainar. All right, and lastly, let's hear from one of our regional health personnel.
Sir Gian, pakishare po yung audio.
Ayan, I think nagkakaroon pala tayo ng audio problem, no? Simula pala kanina, sayang hindi niyo narinig ang ganda ng mga sinabi nung ating mga videos na nakuha. So let me just get back to you kasi these are really good insights na maganda ma-capture natin kasi nakikita natin na talagang na-share, na-capture nila yung mga All right, I think we are having some technical issue with our audio. Sayang, ang ganda ng mga sinasabi, but we'll find a way for you to see this videos later at the end of our broadcast. These are really good insights na nakaka-touch po for us who are behind this webinar series kasi makikita natin na talagang merong mga nakikitang at naiya-apply na learning ang ating pong field para po dito po mula sa ating NDEP webinar series. So as we do every week, we would like to open again formally our webinar series with a video presentation from our Undersecretary Earl P. Saavedra of the Dangerous Drugs Board. Ang Dangerous Drugs Board po ang siyang isa nating major partner sa advocacy na ito, especially that they are the agency tasked to lead the country when it comes to matters related to drug prevention and drug education. So let us see this video, this message from our resource person, from our partner from the Dangerous Drugs Board.
Isang magandang hapon po sa ating mga kasamahan sa advokasya. Nabalitaan ko po na ito pala yung ating last part of the webinar series at masasabi ko po na talagang taus-puso ang pasasalamat ng Dangerous Drugs Board sa panahon at atensyon na inyong iginugol sa ating kampanya kontra illegal na droga sa pamamagitan ng participation sa mga previous na webinar activities natin. Ako po ay nagdesisyon na mag-render ng isang video message. Pagpaumanhin nyo po, hindi ko po kayo makakasama live sapagkat meron po tayong series of activities din na ginagawa patungkol sa ating celebration ng Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Week. Kung may isang bagay na sigurado tayo sa gitna ng lahat ng nangyayari sa ating paligid ngayon, ito ay yung need to adjust and deal with the new normal. Marahil hindi nawawala ang mga katagang ito sa pang-araw-araw na pakikipagsapalaran natin. We have to deal with it. We need to live with it. Ika nga nila, life must go on no matter how difficult the struggle may be. Ganito rin ang nararamdaman natin sa patuloy natin na gawain at advokasya patungkol sa drug abuse prevention and control. Paano ba natin mas maipapalawig ang mensahe ng pag-iwas sa at pagsugpo ng iligal na droga na kahit may pandemya ay hindi dapat mawala ang momentum ng ating seryosong pakikipaglaban dito. Siguro hindi sumagi sa isipan natin na darating ang punto that we have to go digital and promote our actions online. Siguro dati iniisip lang natin na such effort can be part of our creativity and it can be done soon. Ngunit ngayon, we were forced to innovate and implement something just like what we do today. Dati naghihintay lang tayo ng pagkakataon na may training patungkol sa anti-drug advocacy. Ngayon, a simple click can bring the message and resonate the advocacy right before your face on screen. We have reached this far at napatunayan natin na kaya naman pala. Pwede naman pala. The message is still very powerful regardless of the platform. Nakasalalay sa prevention aspect ang pagsugpo ng patuloy na salot na dala ng droga sa bawat mamamayan at lipunan. Kaya nga mahalaga ang katagang prevention works. Sa ibang bansa, nag-develop sila ng slogan na just say no. Isang powerful na sagot at malaman na pagtugon upang ma-remind ang bawat mamamayan na dapat niyang hindian ang paggamit ng droga at hindi ito solusyon sa bawat problemang hinaharap ng isang tao. Noong sinaunang panahon, kasama ng ipinaglalaban na advokasya ay papel at lapis. Ngayon, ang bawat computer at cellphone ay may kaparehong impluensya upang palaganapin ang isang mahalagang adhikain. Nakaka-proud sapagkat ito ang ginagawa natin sa ating NDEP Webinar series. Imagine kung gaano kalayo nakakarating ang ating learning session bawat linggo. Sayang po matatapos na pala tayo. Pero malay ninyo, meron pa tayong mga susunod na advocacy programs kung saan hindi po mawawala sa aming puso't isipan na isama po ang Department of Education sa ating ways forward. Nais ko rin pong gamitin ang pagkakataon na ito upang ibahagi sa inyo na sa katatapos lang na household survey on the patterns and trends of drug abuse in the Philippines, 65.8% of the public ang nagsasabi na aware sila sa government's anti-drug campaign. Isa pa sa magandang balita ay ang pagpapatotoo nila na mas naiintindihan nila ang kahalagahan ng kampanya na ito dahil sa mga programa na patuloy na ipinapatupad ng pamahalaan tulad ng anti-drug advocacy at seminars. Naging motivation po ito ng mga ahensya ng gobyerno na mas pagbutihin pa ang messaging campaign para masiguro ay involvement at ownership ng ating mga mamamayan sa kampanyang patuloy nating inilulunsad. Nawa ay marami po muli kayong matututunan sa topic natin sa linggo na ito patungkol sa redesigning preventive education for the new normal. You are all in the good hands of Professor Francis Grace Duka-Pante, ang direktor po ng ATC Pde, who is also a good friend. Magkikita-kita po tayo muli sa susunod na mga adhikain na gagawin ng Dangerous Drugs Board on drug abuse prevention and control. After all, we already consider you as our anti-drug advocates. Wala nang bawian yon at hindi na pwedeng umatras. Patuloy po nating hangarin ang mabuting kalusugan ng lahat sa pamamagitan ng ibayong pag-iingat. Isang magandang hapon po sa ating mga kasamahan sa advocacy.
Alright, so mabuting kalusugan sa lahat sa pamamagitan ng ibayong pag-iingat. A very powerful closing statement from our BDB Executive Director, Yusek Earl sa Avedra. Maraming salamat po kay Yusek Earl sa bawat linggo niyang pagsama sa atin at sa pag-contextualize niya ng ginagawa natin sa overall government response when it comes to drug education and drug use prevention. So maraming salamat po, Yusek Earl. And katulad din ng ginagawa natin every week, atin ding binubuksan ang ating session officially with a message from our School Health Division Chief, Dr. Maria Corazon Dumlao, para naman i-contextualize yung episode natin sa overall implementation ng health and nutrition programs sa Department of Education. Sa case na ito, ang program natin na National Drug Education Program. Let me call on our Chief, Dr. Maria Corazon Dumlao from the School Health Division of the Bureau of Learner Support Services to give her message. Dr. Dumlao?
Clear ba, Gian, ang audio?
Yung audio po, Doc, clear po. Pero parang medyo blurred lang yung video natin, Doc. Ayan, it's better now.
Medyo nagkakaproblema kami sa connectivity. Pero anyway, magandang hapon po sa lahat ng ating mga viewers. Tingnan po natin, ito na yung last episode ng ating series of webinars. At syempre, nais po namin kayong pasalamatan sa lahat ng pagsubaybay at pagsuporta nyo magmula unang episode hanggang ngayon. Napaka-timely din na itong ating last episode ay naitapat sa ipinagdiriwang natin na Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Week. At align po ito sa theme ngayon na Better Knowledge for Better Health. And sabi nga nila, learning is a journey, and kinakailangan pa rin natin na ma-update ang ating kaalaman at maging sustained ang mga efforts natin sa Department of Education to improve our knowledge for better health. Ipinapahiwatig ng theme na mas kailangan pa nating maintindihan ang problema sa substance use prevention, yung substance use at abuse, at magkaroon ng tamang kaalaman nang sa ganon na ma-address natin ang suliraning ito. And napakaswerte natin kasi kabahagi tayo ng problem solving ng ating bansa and also the global community in addressing problems on substance use and abuse. Sa mga naging topics po natin ng ating NDEP Webinar series, hangad namin na matugunan ang tema ng DAPSI Week at marami tayong natututunan sa ating magagaling na mga resource speakers. And last week, we discussed the importance of being healthy and being drug-free, giving our students correct information on the negative effects of drugs and teaching them life skills that they need so that they can be better advocates of substance use prevention. Ngayon naman po ay napaka-exciting ng ating topic for our viewers, especially for our teachers, since we will talk about preventive drug education amidst COVID-19. So in this times of pandemic, we face a lot of challenges, especially in terms of how we shift our teaching strategies from the normal, from the usual normal to the new normal. And we need to really adjust our content and delivery of our lectures to better understand and appreciate the things we want to convey to our learners. Effective drug education during this time is important because young people are faced with many influences to use both illicit and licit drugs. Ang tamang strategies sa pagtuturo ay napakahalaga so we can convey the messages we want to give to our students. And good quality drug education can impact on changes in specific drug using patterns and reduce the use of drugs and associated problems for young people. So drug education can contribute towards decreased harm and increased safety for young people, their families, and communities. It is for this reason that we included this topic redesigning preventive drug education for the new normal, so we can learn strategies on how we can better provide preventive drug education in these times of pandemic. And I am very grateful to our speaker today na kapatid namin sa advokasya. Siya po ay kasama ko rin as one of the global master trainers, and siya isang kaibigan. She has always been a source of inspiration and unwavering support to the Department of Education. Alam niyo po yan, isang tawag lang po sa kanya, nandyan na kaagad, at wala kang makikita or maririnig na pagdadalawang salita kapag ini-invite natin siya. She is very willing to share her talents, her knowledge, and expertise on this topic. So what are we waiting for? Let us all learn together and be a better advocate on preventive drug education. Magandang hapon po muli sa lahat.
Thank you very much po, Dr. Dumlao. Si Dr. Dumlao po, katulad ng ating resource person, na isa sa mga global trainers on substance use prevention. Kaya po nakakatuwa ng ating pong mga programa sa DepEd ay guided ng principles of compassion, of evidence-based interventions, at mga konsepto na aligned sa international standards. So thank you po, Dr. Dumlao, for that message. And thank you for that last message for this NDEP webinar series. Nakasama po natin si Dr. Dumlao every week for the past 10 episodes. So we hope na take note din po natin hindi lang yung pinakang lecture, no, but the messages na binibigay sa atin at the start of each session, kasi nagkakaroon tayo ng guidance, especially in terms of implementing our programs in our context sa Department of Education. Before we formally introduce our resource person, let me remind everyone that if you have questions, comments, or insights, this is where you will share your comments, questions, and insights. bit.ly/2020 NDEP web series feedback. Wag po sa comment section, kasi po pag sa comment section ninyo nilagay, matatabunan po yan, hindi natin maibibring up sa resource person mamaya. But our resource person is really excited to talk again with you. So, tawagin ko po ulit si Ma'am Girly, tawagin po natin ang ating National Coordinator for the National Drug Education Program, Ma'am Girly Azurin, para po ipakilala muli, formally, ang ating resource person for this afternoon. Although nagkaroon na ng konting introduction si Dr. Dumlao kanina, let's welcome again Ma'am Girly Azurin, our NDEP Coordinator, to introduce our resource person. Ma'am Girly, kumusta po kayo dyan?
Okay lang naman. Thank you, Gian. Okay. It is my honor to introduce to you our speaker. She serves as director of the ASEAN Training Center for Preventive Drug Education at the University of the Philippines, where she also teaches health education courses in the College of Education. In 2018, she spearheaded a training program to develop the personal and social skills of Filipino high school students in the 3 public schools in Metro Manila through peer education. As a global prevention trainer, she has been involved in capacity building activities sponsored by the Colombo Plan in Austria, Colombia, Fiji, Kenya, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Thailand, United Arab Emirates, and the Philippines. She assists the Department of Education in developing health-related policies and the Dangerous Drugs Board in crafting the Philippine Anti-Illegal Drug Strategy, or PADS. Friends, let us all welcome Professor Francis Grace H. Duka-Pante.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Am I clear? I hope you can hear me clearly. I'm so excited to be with you again this afternoon. Thank you so much, Ma'am Girly, for that kind introduction. I'm going to start by thanking the Department of Education and the Dangerous Drugs Board for this worthy initiative on drug abuse prevention. Thank you so much to my dear friends in the Department of Education, of course, Dr. Maria Corazon Dumlao, the head of the School Health Division, and to the National Coordinator of the NDEP, Ma'am Girly Azurin. and of course to Sir Gian Adaw for your effective facilitation since episode 1. Hi, welcome everyone. This is the last episode of our NDEP series of webinars. I know that you are excited again to be with us this afternoon. So I'm now going to start sharing my screen. I hope that you can see it now. Let me just start from the beginning. So welcome to this presentation. I'm going to walk you through the different best practices of the ASEAN member states in redesigning preventive drug education for the new normal. I am Professor Francis Grace Duka-Pante. I am currently the Director of the ASEAN Training Center for Preventive Drug Education, or Pde. This is based in the University of the Philippines College of Education. Because of the recent calamities, I'm going to start with this slide. It says HOPE, and HOPE is an acronym for Hold On, Pain Ends. Everything is temporary, and sometimes we need to embrace pain so that we will be able to appreciate life. So our prayers for our fellow Filipinos who are suffering right now from the onslaught of several typhoons, especially among my kababayans in Bicol, and to our fellow Filipinos in Cagayan, Isabela, Marikina, Rizal, and in other places in the country. Our prayers are with you. So just like what Yusek Earl Saavedra said, this week is quite timely that we are doing the last episode of this NDEP webinar because this week we are celebrating the National Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Week. And this celebration has been mandated, by Presidential Proclamation number 124 last November 26, 2001. And this proclamation states that we are celebrating the National Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Week every third week of November. And as Dr. Dumlao mentioned, the theme for this year's celebration is better knowledge for better care. So I guess it's really very relevant that we are conducting this series of webinars to update your knowledge on what works in prevention. Are you ready? I hope you are. So before we start with the presentation, let me just introduce to you the ASEAN Training Center for Preventive Drug Education, or ASEAN. I am aware that many of you are not familiar with the center. Please remember that the center is located in the Philippines. This is in the University of the Philippines, specifically on the 3rd floor of the UP College of Education. And the Pde is actually composed of a drug education committee with members from various government agencies. So primarily, most of the committee members are from the University of the Philippines, UP College of Education, UP Integrated School or UPIS, UP NISMED or UP National Institute for Science and Mathematics Education. Then of course we have the Dangerous Drugs Board led by Ma'am Tess Pineda from Pde. Thank you so much, Dangerous Drugs Board. So DDB is our funding agency. And then of course we have members from the Department of Education, Ma'am Dr. Dumlao and Ma'am Gurli Azurin. And then, of course, we have a representative from the Commission on Higher Education, or CHED, from the Department of Health, from the Department of Social Welfare and Development, and from the Philippine Information Agency. So as you can see, Pde is actually intergovernmental committee or board, and our mandate is to capacitate not only our prevention professionals in the Philippines but across the ASEAN member states. So we have 10 countries in Southeast Asia which are members of the ASEAN. So for this afternoon, I'm going to walk you through the different key points of the past 9 episodes. We're going to review them. We are also going to describe the best practices in preventive drug education of the ASEAN member states in the new normal. So what are they doing since the lockdown? And how are they pursuing all their prevention initiatives? And lastly, we are going to summarize the factors to consider in delivering preventive drug education for the new normal. So let's start. Before I begin with episode 1, again, let me just greet our NDEP coordinators all over the country. I have a friend from Pangasinan, and I'm going to read. Okay, her school is Pangasinan School of Arts and Trades. So special mention to all the faculty and the administrators of Pangasinan School of Arts and Trades in Lingayen, Pangasinan. Principal is Maria Teresa Aquino. Thank you so much, Ma'am, for watching. And then Assistant Principal, Mr. Celito Bugarin. So I know that many of our schools across the country are watching our NDEP webinar since day 1. And this is your Tuesday habit. And we would like to thank you, okay, from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you very much for supporting our National Drug Education Program. So let us review the different key points from the 9 past episodes of this NDEP webinar. So let's start off with the first episode. As you can see, this is my first presentation. So I'm really blessed that I started with the series of webinars and now I'm going to end it. Now, I hope you still remember the key points of the first presentation. I talked about the crucial role of the school as an important setting for substance use prevention. I highlighted the fact that prevention can be harmful if we apply it incorrectly or we implement it the wrong way. So I told you that it is very important to implement evidence-based programs. Okay? And I also reminded you that the school has 3 prevention roles. The most important is, of course, on drug demand reduction. That's why we integrated it in the curriculum. That's why we are doing scouting activities. We are doing extracurricular activities that are related to substance use prevention because we have a very important role in demand reduction. The second is in supply reduction. That's why we have policies against smoking and drinking alcohol, and of course, the use of illegal substances. And the last one is in reducing the adverse consequences of substance use and having the referral mechanism in place, a strong guidance and counseling program in the school so that we will be able to support our students who may have been found to be using substances. Remember, when we talk about psychoactive substance, this includes cigarette and alcohol. Now, let's move on to the second episode. So, Pastor Little Jones's Paleta walked you through the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime International Standards on Drug Use Prevention. And he explained clearly that the updated version of the international standards on drug use prevention was actually published in 2018. So the UNODC and the World Health Organization collaborated in order to publish the second edition of this international standards. And the most important part of this international standards can be summarized into 3. Okay, so we're going to categorize them into 3. First, when we do prevention, intervention, and policies, it's very important that we consider the developmental framework, meaning we provide interventions across the different developmental stages, from infancy and early childhood to middle childhood to early adolescence, and adolescence and adulthood. So as you can see from here, it's really multiple developmental stages. The second category is prevention setting. So in order for us to be able to have an effective prevention intervention in the country, we need to target multiple settings. So it includes the family, of course, the school, the workplace, and the community. Let me emphasize that among these settings, the family remains to be the most important setting. And then the second would be the school, of course. The third category is target population. What is target population? Universal, selective, and indicated. So when we say universal intervention, we are targeting the whole or the general population regardless of risk. So whether you are low or you are high risk, you are being targeted. So for instance, in the school, when you do an intervention for all the students, you are doing a universal intervention. For selective, this is targeting high-risk populations or high-risk groups. So when you do an intervention targeting students who are highly vulnerable because maybe of their family issues, because maybe they come from poor neighborhoods, then you are doing selective intervention. And then finally, we have indicated intervention. This one is for vulnerable individuals. These are individuals who have already been using substances but are not yet dependent. So please remember that these are the crucial components of the UNODC International Standards on Drug Use Prevention. This is the heart of the international standards. Remember, to be effective, we need to target the different developmental stages, the different settings, and the different target population. Thank you so much, Pastor LJ, for clarifying all these concepts. Now, we will proceed to episode 3. Episode 3, wow, you have a very energetic resource person for episode 3. You met Santi, the famous Santa Nartadranes Iray, the chief trainer of the Drug Check Philippines Incorporated. And Santi talked about the role of the workplace in substance use prevention. I remember Santi gave you a lot of hugot lines, a lot of famous quotations, and I'm sure that you have enjoyed this particular episode. So Santi emphasized the different factors affecting substance use in the workplace. This is very important because workplace is an important setting for prevention. And he said that substance use in the workplace is multifactorial. There are issues around family, effects of calamities, because in the Philippines, we know that we are very rich in calamities, right? So we just had several calamities weeks ago. And then, of course, economic crisis. And this is aggravated by the pandemic. So people are highly stressed. Workers are highly stressed, maybe because they lost their job, maybe because they are now working from home. So there are different issues which increase susceptibility to substance use. And according to Santi, the aim of drug-free workplace program is actually to maintain and restore health and safety standards so that our workers would be able to be productive and they would be able to produce quality outputs in the enterprise. And Santi also reminded us that the issue on drugs is not really about drugs, but it's all about people and caring for people. Next, for episode 4, is a very touching topic. This is a very enlightening episode on social stigma on substance use. And Dr. Clara Fuderanan walked us through the effects of social stigma and what are the strategies that we can use so that we will be able to change public stigma. She said that stigma is actually a set of negative beliefs that a group or society holds about a topic or a group of people. And she contextualizes stigma among substance users. Okay? And according to her, there are actually different strategies that we can do so that we will be able to prevent public stigma. Number 1 is to protest. Number 2, of course, this is very relevant to all of us because she's talking about education. And in education, we need to give accurate information, meaning we need to explain that substance use is multifactorial. There are different factors that come into play. And then as educators, it is our moral obligation to address media biases and inaccuracies surrounding substance users. because there are a lot of misconceptions. We all know that there are a lot of fake news, right? And it is our moral responsibility to correct all this inaccurate information. And then, of course, we need to portray people with substance use disorder as human beings. So we shouldn't label them. They're people with feelings, and we need to embrace them with compassion. And lastly, contact. This is highlighting the stories of successful recovery and looking at the positive face of substance users. Now we're moving on to episode 5. In this episode, Dr. Marie Grace Gomez from the UP College of Education and also a member of the ATC Pde walked you through the mental health issues in the context of substance use. And Dr. Gomez reminded us that substance-related disorders they're actually a cluster of cognitive, behavioral, and physiological symptoms, indicating that the individual continues using the substance despite significant substance-related issues. This is a very comprehensive definition. And she highlighted the fact that in substance use disorder, biological, psychological, socioeconomic, and spiritual dimensions are at play. So it's wrong to just look at substance use disorder from a medical point of view. It's also not good to look at it solely from a biological point of view. It should be an interplay of these different factors and dimensions. As she reminded us, we can't understand the disease without the complex context or contributing factors. In prevention, according to her, it is very important to strengthen protective factors because they contribute to mental health and allow a person to be resilient in the face of challenges. And we all know that resilience is a very important thing, especially now that we are amidst a pandemic and several calamities. So an example that she gave is enhanced social support. So again, let's practice physical distancing, not social distancing. Okay, we need to connect intentionally to each other, maybe through virtual means, but please don't isolate yourself. It is not good for your mental health. So let's enhance social support by asking for help. Asking for help is actually a good way to cope. Okay, it's not something that you need to be afraid of. We also need to increase our ability to talk about problems and to open up our experiences. We need to learn how to experience love and friendship. So thank you so much, Dr. Gomez, for reminding us about this comprehensive nature of substance use disorder. Now we move on to episode 6, and Pastor Little Jones' Paleta came back to share with us the importance of media and their use in substance use prevention. And according to him, and based on the international standards on drug use prevention, evidence-based media campaign should precisely identify the target group. So this is step 1. Whenever you design a media campaign, please be sure that you are clear when it comes to your target audience. The second is to ensure that you have solid theoretical basis, whether it's stages of change, whether it's social learning theory. As long as you have a solid theoretical basis, that would guide you in developing your media campaign. And the third is to design message based on strong formative research. So it should be research-based. It should also be strongly connected to other existing drug prevention programs like home-based programs, school-based programs, or community-based programs. So please remember that for our media campaign to be effective, it should be embedded in other existing drug prevention programs in different settings. So for instance, in the school, if you're doing your Barkada contra Droga or other strategies for NDEP, then you can tie it up with media campaign. So media campaign is not so effective if it stands alone. So it should be a part of an existing drug prevention program in other settings. Now let's move on to episode 7. And we are so lucky for episode 7. Our good friend, another UPC trainer, so Dr. Sylvia Vivian Pino Galang, is actually a member of the Philippine UPC team. She is a national trainer for UPC. So Dr. Galang walked us through the substance use disorder as a chronic and relapsing but manageable disease. She explained the parts of the brain that are affected by psychoactive substances, primarily brainstem, which controls our respiration. So the brainstem is actually very important. The cerebral cortex, the thinking part of the brain, and of course the limbic system, wherein you have your reward pathway. That's why when people take psychoactive substances, the reward pathway is actually activated. So it releases a lot of dopamines and the road to dependence starts. Okay? And she also explained to us the different categories of psychoactive substances. She explained the stimulants, depressants, narcotics, or the pain relievers, and of course the hallucinogen or the psychedelics. And it was a very informative episode. So I hope that you had learned so much from Dr. Galang. Now let's move on to episode 8. And in this particular episode, we are so blessed because the Assistant Secretary of the Dangerous Drugs Board, ASEC Maria Belen Angelita Matibag, gave us very practical tips on how to be good parents. And according to ASEC Matibag, there are risk and protective factors, and our job as parents, as educators, is to reduce the risk factors and increase protective factors. So in the context of the family, ASEC Matibag explained to us the risk factors that include chaotic home environment, ineffective parenting, and little attachment and nurturing. So according to her, we need to reduce this, okay? Eliminate this if possible. And strengthen the protective factors that include strong family bond, parental engagement in child's life, and having clear parental expectations and consequences. I love the message that ASEC Matibag said, the prevention starts with parents. She is correct. Prevention starts with the family. The most important protective factor is a strong family. Wherever you go, in whichever country you go, it will always be the same message. The family is the most important protective factor. So if we nurture our families, okay, if parents provide quality time to their children, they have effective communication with them, they guide them in making good decisions and in choosing good influence friends, and they have set clear rules about non-use of substances, they are role models of non-use, then prevention would really work in our country. So again, let me emphasize that. Thank you so much, ASEC Matibag, for reminding us about the importance of family as a setting in prevention. And last Tuesday, we were able to learn the different strategies in delivering preventive drug education. Summary of the different recommended strategies for the different grade levels. She categorized them into 4. According to her, for kinder to grade 3, modeling activities. They'll know that this is the formative years, right? So it's really very important to model the correct behavior, the healthful behavior. For grades 4 to 6, another crucial grade levels 4 to 6, okay? So techniques to enhance life skills. We should start prevention as soon as possible, as young as possible, and teaching our young children, our grade schoolers, the proper life skills, how to develop life skills. So we focus on refusal or resistance skills. This is how to say no. And many activities here are related to role play or giving scenario and then acting out. So whenever a friend, for instance, offers a cigarette or a bottle of alcohol, how do you refuse? There are a lot of strategies in refusing, right? So you just can say no. So just say no firmly and with eye contact. Or you can do the broken record technique. Broken record technique is repeating or saying no as many times as needed. Okay, so that is broken record technique. You can also change the subject. You can make excuses. There are a lot of strategies. You can just stay away. You can do the cold shoulder or pretend that you didn't hear the offer. So these are just some practical ways to say no. So again, from grades 4 up to college, we just need to keep on repeating these things so that they will be reminded. Let's continue to enhance our young people's refusal skills, because based on research, the young people are having problems saying no. Okay, so among Filipino learners, they are weak when it comes to refusal skills and assertiveness. So we need really to develop these skills among our young Filipinos. And of course, it also includes communication skills, decision making. Okay, in decision making, I always make use of the DECIDE model. So DECIDE is an acronym that stands for D is determine the issue, E, you need to explore the alternatives, C, you need to consider the consequences, I is to identify your values so that your decision would be based on your values, and D is you decide. The last E, you need to evaluate your decision. So that's a very practical acronym that you can teach our learners on how to make good decisions. So use the DECIDE model. Determine the issue or the problem, explore the alternatives, what are your options, and C, consider the consequences of each option, identify your values, decide, and evaluate. And then, of course, assertiveness. So again, this is using scenarios, and then personal and social skills, particularly stress management. Remember that we are in the midst of the pandemic, and even our children are experiencing a lot of stress, and teaching them how to manage this stress will be very helpful. So even just teaching them simple breathing exercises, the 5-7-8 technique. So for instance, you count 5 when you inhale. Okay, on the count of 5, you inhale and then you hold it for 7 seconds and then you exhale for 8 seconds. That's the 5-7-8 breathing technique. So there are a lot of breathing exercises that could help you relax. So maybe we can teach this to our children. And then for the high school, okay, 7 to 10, grade 7 to 10, self-esteem enhancement exercises that would include, for instance, having what do you value most about yourself, being proud of yourself, celebrating each maybe small or big win. Okay, just like developing your self-worth. There are a lot of activities that you can make use, okay, in order to develop the self-esteem of your students. And then this is one of my favorites, abstinence bag or box. This one, okay, I'm going to show you my abstinence box. Inside the box, you can ask your students to put 5 items that they value and that would help them say no to unhelpful behaviors like substance use. So I have here, because I'm a teacher, I have here a picture of my students. I have here a rosary. I have here this one would remind me of my love for nature and traveling. I have here a ball pen, okay, because I love writing. And then a saying that says, it is never too late to be what you might have been. So that's the abstinence box. Just 5 items that you are going to put inside the box that would help you say no to unhelpful behaviors. And then Professor Samora also talked about simulation, like emphysema in a minute. So this is a very good activity, okay, so that our students would experience how does it feel to have an emphysema, which is a smoker's disease, right? So for a minute. And then for college students, we focus more on values-based strategies. and commitment or making a stand activity. So thank you so much, Professor Zamora, for sharing with us very practical tips on how to deliver preventive drug education. So now I was able to summarize the key points of the 9 episodes of this NDEP webinars. I'm sure you are now ready to listen to the last episode, and now we are going to talk about the best practices in preventive drug education for the new normal that's being done by the ASEAN member states. So welcome to the ASEAN journey. I'm going to explain to you the different best practices, and we're going to hop from one country to another. So we're going to travel to 9 countries in Southeast Asia. Are you ready? So welcome to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, again with 10 countries. Can you name the 10 countries alphabetically? So we're going to start with Brunei Darussalam and move on to Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos PDR, and then Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. We're going to travel. Are you ready to travel with me? I know that there is travel restriction right now, so we can't move from one country to another, but because it's just a virtual journey, we can do this. Are you ready? Let's start. Let's start with this COVID-19 situation in Southeast Asia. So as you can see, this was actually the statistics from yesterday. So we have the highest is Indonesia, considering that Indonesia is also the most populated country in Southeast Asia. They're the 4th in the world. So they have 470,648. And coming second is the Philippines. The last would be Laos with 24 cases. Okay. And you can also see that Malaysia has 48,000, Myanmar has 68,000, and Singapore has 58,124. So this is the big picture when it comes to the COVID-19 situation in Southeast Asia. Now we're moving on to the background. Okay. So I am so lucky because I am speaking to you right now, and we just finished the series of webinars conducted by the ASEAN Training Center for Preventive Drug Education and the Dangerous Drugs Board for 6 consecutive Wednesdays from October 14 to November 11, 2020. So we just finished this last Wednesday. And the title of this webinar series is Rethinking Preventive Drug Education for the New Normal, the ASEAN Experience. So this is very timely, and what I'm going to do with my presentation today is just to summarize all the best practices from our ASEAN member states. So these are the resource person from each country. I would like to acknowledge each of them. So the presenter from Brunei Darussalam is Nordina Haji Muhammad Ali. From Cambodia, we have Tong Sokontea. Indonesia, from Eva Fitri Yuanita. Laos PDR, Saifon Sisokwane. Malaysia is Nur Alisa Binti Alyam. Myanmar, Su Tetso. Philippines, Asak Maria Belen Angelita Matibag. From Singapore, we have OU Kwan and Audrey Chua. From Thailand, we have Chuliporn Pisitkul. And from Vietnam, we have Tran Thi Ngo Kuan. I just hope that I was able to pronounce their names correctly. Now we're going to travel to Brunei. This is our first stop. So Brunei, as we all know, is primarily an Islamic country. So what is Brunei Darussalam doing in preventive drug education for the new normal? So they have online preventive drug education, and they have launched the Students Pledge online. They have, of course, an Instagram and Facebook, and the hashtag that they're using is no drugs at all. They have also a preventive drug education website, www.pde.narcotics.gov.bn. They have also continued their television shows, talk shows on preventive drug education. So even before the pandemic, they have the Youth Chat Corner and this Kurapak Kitani These are their television shows that tackle preventive drug education. Okay? They have motivational videos. As you can see, they embed preventive drug education in Islamic teaching. Okay? And even in the curriculum, you can see that they have Islamic subjects, and preventive drug education is very much embedded in those subjects. They have radio talks, and what is very interesting is that these radio talks on preventive drug education, they have different versions. So they have a Mandarin version, and they also have a Malay version. They also launch mobile applications for preventive drug education. So they do inventory and activity record. Plus, they strengthened their strategic partnership with RTB. This is Royal Television Brunei, and they have Kingston, Kensington, BGC, CIC, Environmental Services. They have also strengthened their partnership with Prion. This is a mineral battling company, and other partners. So they're doing prevention programs together. So the government is closely coordinating with businesses in delivering preventive drug education in the country. Now we move on to Cambodia. So what is Cambodia doing in prevention, in their prevention programs now that we are in COVID, in a pandemic? So the preventive drug education strategies of Cambodia, they integrate preventive drug education in their online teaching. They were able to intensify the use of mass media, and government officers were actually encouraged to support preventive drug education through their Facebook. So as you can see, they shifted from the traditional now to the online modality. Also, they're continuing their conventional methods of doing prevention. So they increase their indirect activities at local level by using leaflets and posters in public areas. So again, paper-based campaign for prevention, and then they develop the capacity and materials for preventive drug education. So their Ministry of Education is developing preventive drug education textbooks. They were able to draft textbooks for grades 1, 4, 7, and 10 last year, and now they're drafting grades 2, 5, 8, and grade 11. So they have a textbook solely for preventive drug education. Now, let's travel to Indonesia. So Indonesia is a very interesting country because, again, they are fourth in the world when it comes to population. They're very multicultural. They have different religions. As you can see, although dominant religion is Islam, they also have Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Confucianism, and they have over 700 languages. So very diverse culture. So what is Indonesia doing now in prevention? Let's look at this one. So before the pandemic, they were able to conduct surveys, okay, in different parts of the country. And the result of the survey were used to come up with this program. It's called the Anti-Drug Family Resilience Intervention. So this is a family-based intervention. As you can see, they're still doing it face-to-face here, but they're observing health protocols, right? They're wearing their mask. And along with the face-to-face interventions, they're also doing preventive drug education virtual platform collaboration. So you can see they have here meetings online, okay, with their government officials. And they also did a lot of public service announcement. BNN is the counterpart of the Dangerous Drugs Board in Indonesia. Okay, so you can see here the different these are the different infographics and public service announcement in Indonesia. They also did a campaign called Hidup 100%, Sadar, Sehat, Produktif, dan Bahagia. So the main point of this campaign is to have 100 people who will serve as role models. They will be happy, healthy, and drug-free 100 model people. Okay, so they are using the social learning theory of Bandura. So it's imitating the behavior of these role models. Now, let's move on to Lao. This is Lao PDR, People's Democratic Republic. What is so unique about Lao is that Lao is primarily a Buddhist country, right? But they also have a little of small population of Christians and 0.1% of Islam. And among the different ASEAN member states, Lao is still continuing face-to-face. Okay, they sustain their preventive drug education among young people through school-based intervention, and they're still doing it face-to-face because, as you can see, they have very few cases of COVID-19. So they're just wearing masks, they're observing health protocols, but they're doing PDE just the same. So pre-pandemic intervention. These are just examples of the IEC materials, the information, education, and communication materials for preventive drug education that Lao continues to produce. They have also policies, okay, drug policies from 2016 to 2020. So you can see here in blue, they have the National Drug Control Master Plan from 2016 to 2020. Let's move on to Malaysia. And in Malaysia, they're very active in doing preventive drug education in social media. So they have a lot of infographics and awareness videos online. And very interesting, they also launch a lot of virtual programs. So they have e-learning, e-exhibition, live streaming, and online conference. Collaboration for PDE. So they have established partnerships with the different government agencies and private organizations and private individuals. So even before the pandemic, Malaysia is already doing the anti-drugs icon. So they launched this program several years ago, and now they're still continuing it. They're collaborating with information department in delivering the prevention message to the public. These are examples of the preventive drug education materials and services in Malaysia. As you can see, they publish several recovery pocket books to assist those who are recovering from substance use. They also have a telephone line for those who need assistance. Okay, so they call this Talian Hotline Hello AADK. So from April 24, 2020, so they were able to establish this mechanism to help the people who are highly stressed and who need somebody to talk to, who may be struggling with substance use issues. So they have somebody online on the phone who can help them. In Myanmar, okay, Myanmar, let's move on to Myanmar. Well, you can see here the different materials that they're using. So we have books here. These are the worksheets in comics format, okay? Preventive drug education. But along with the traditional modality, they're also doing learning management. They have a learning management system, okay? The Ministry of Education has launched this. They call this Zero Data. And what is unique about Myanmar is that they have a separate subject in their curriculum known as life skills. So life skills is a subject in Myanmar. So this is provided to those who are in basic education, and preventive drug education is integrated in the life skills subject. And they're continuing, okay, integrating preventive drug education in life skills, in the life skills subject. These are examples of preventive drug education online. So as you can see, they develop several materials for prevention. They also have here the basic education, school quality assurance standards framework on the right side. So this is the standards for basic education. They also have, just like in the Philippines, they have different television programs okay, wherein they integrate preventive drug education. And on the right side, you can see the different schedule of these television programs, okay, educational programs for their learners. The Ministry of Education of Myanmar also launched the Myanmar Digital Education Platform. So this is what's happening in Myanmar. Now, let's move on to our own country, the Philippines. So I'm sorry because the population is not updated here. It's still in 2015. And I'm showing to you a picture of Bulusan Lake because I'm from Sorsogon. I would like to say hi to my family in Kasiguran, Sorsogon. I know they are watching right now. And to my teachers in Sorsogon National High School, to my fellow Sorsoganons, Diyos marhay na banggi sa Indugabos. To my fellow Bicolanos, I hope that we will be able to thrive in this crisis. So, my apologies for using Bulusan Lake as the picture for the Philippines. I'm biased. So, now let's move on to the Philippines. And the Philippines is using a two-pronged strategy for our drug prevention and control. So, this is the Philippine Anti-Illegal Drug Strategy, or PADS. Two-pronged approaches. So we have demand reduction and supply reduction. So this is a balanced and comprehensive approach in order for us to counter substance use or illegal drugs in particular. So for the Philippines, we have a series of fact talk, okay, online, and this was spearheaded by the Dangerous Drugs Board. As you can see, there were several interesting topics on rethinking drug abuse preventive education program using the NSTP platforms in higher education institutions, sports as part of self-discipline, understanding cryptocurrencies in relation to the drug trade. So this is understanding Bitcoin, okay, and the dark web. And then strengthening Barkada Contra Droga, tapping the University Student Council platform for anti-drug advocacy, and of course, the influence of mass media in the anti-drug program. So thank you so much, DDB, for facilitating this Fact Talk series. Along with the Fact Talk series, the DDB also conducted several webinars. So we have a webinar on effective parenting. Santi was invited to talk about Usapang Millennial, Katatagan ng Kabataan Tungo sa Kaligtasan. Yes. And then, of course, we have a webinar on discouraging drug use in the workplace. And these are all in the DDB platform. Continuation of the webinar series. So we have a webinar on impact of drug use to mental health webinar. This is very interesting. Webinar on the use of nutritional guide for persons who use drugs. And lastly, Attorney Vera Cruz talked about what you should know about Republic Act 9165 or the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002. So very interesting topics for the webinar series conducted by the Dangerous Drugs Board. And we also have the various modes of PDE, right? Radio, television, and all these modalities we are including preventive drug education. Plus, we have TED Education. This is a cable television-based and online educational program on preventive drug education for Filipino learners. The Dangerous Drugs Board also produced several Pde Infographics. So this is an information campaign on the importance of June 26. So for the information of everyone, every June 26, we celebrate the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. So it was declared by the United Nations. And every June 26, each year, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime released the World Drug Report. So that's a trivia. Every June 26, they release the World Drug Report. And the DDP also produced this very interesting infographic on preventing workplace stressors. Very important, especially among us teachers. They also did an infographic on suicide prevention. So I like this message. Just like drug use, suicide is not the answer. And you can listen and do not preach. Seek professional help if you need one. So thank you so much, DDB, for this very helpful infographics. The ASEAN Training Center for Preventive Drug Education also produced 2 infographics, and we were able to actually share this with our ASEAN member states. So all countries in Southeast Asia received a copy of this infographics from the ASEAN Training Center for Preventive Drug Education. Now let's move on to Singapore. So Singapore, as you all know, is a small country, but they are ahead when it comes to technology. As you can see from their prevention interventions, so they have virtual preventive drug education skits and talks. Okay, they have virtual anti-drug advocate training program, so using the virtual platforms for training. They have this virtual anti-drug advocate training program outputs. Very interesting. They have this drug-free Singapore bingo. Okay, bingo card. And then they have several advocacies online. They also have a lot of materials on preventive drug education online. They have this campaign, I Live For. So young people are challenged to complete the unfinished statement, I live for. So you need to complete that. As you can see here, it says, I live for friends. So maybe you can type on the chat box, what do you live for? So that's the campaign of Singapore. They also have the anti-drug advocacy. As you can see, they're promoting the green ribbon. So I have here the green ribbon. This was actually designed by Singapore. Green is the color of prevention. And when you see a green ribbon, this stands for substance use prevention or drug use prevention. So thank you, Singapore, for the green ribbon for prevention. So you can see here, there are several advocacies online. They're using the QR code, quick response, or QR, quick response, because the QR code, you can easily scan this using your mobile phones, right? That's why it's called QR, for quick response. Just a trivia. Okay, so they also have a lot of preventive drug education media campaigns. You can see here what happens when you're bussed. Very interesting, right? So these are available online. And Singapore is very generous in sharing their innovative interventions and programs in prevention. They have this anti-drug abuse campaign for this year. You can see here the I Live For sticker pack. So I live for what? Do you live for hugs? Okay, so they have catchy quotations here, right? So you have hugs, not drugs. Say no to drugs. Let me disinfect this condom. Okay. So they have a lot of catchy materials. Pugs, not drugs. Living the happy life. So stickers. Okay. Thank you, Singapore. This one is really advanced. Singapore has the augmented reality exhibition. So among the 10 countries, only Singapore did this. So what is augmented reality? This is enhancing reality by superimposing digital images on actual physical environment in order to enhance your experience of reality. So they're using the QR code also in this particular program, and this is something that maybe we can learn to do in the Philippines. Filipinos are very skillful, right? We are full of talents, and I'm sure that many of our tech-savvy Filipinos can learn from Singapore and do this also in the country, the augmented reality exhibition. Now, let's move on to Thailand, the second to the last country. So Thailand, they also have a lot of preventive drug education online. Of course, we can't read the characters, the Thai characters here, but they're using Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, a lot of social media. And they have this YouTubers for preventive drug education. Very interesting. So they're making use of influencers online to deliver the prevention message. Lastly, we have Vietnam. So what do we have from Vietnam? Vietnam is doing the infographics. Okay, they're continuing in the production of their infographics, but you can see from here that they are slowly moving from the conventional to the online modality. Okay, so just like in other countries, Vietnam is also utilizing the digital platform to deliver the prevention message. So these are the best practices, okay, that the ASEAN member states are doing in prevention. I was able to walk you through the 10 countries. Thank you so much for joining me in traveling, hopping from one country to the next. I hope that you enjoyed the journey. So I'm now moving on to the last part of this presentation. This is going to be very quick so that I will still have time for your questions. So let us now summarize the key points. Now that you were able to witness, okay, the different interventions that countries are doing in Southeast Asia, what are the factors that we need to consider in reimagining preventive drug education? So I have listed here 5 factors. The first one is context. The second one is to review our goal and to look at our standards and review our principles and again strategize. Okay, so we need to look at our strategies. So for the context, we all know that economic difficulties caused by COVID-19 changed drug consumption for the worse. Okay, because of the pandemic, there is very high level of stress among people. So there is also high susceptibility to substance use. This data is actually based on the UNODC, or United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. And according to that statistics, okay, the economic downturn may lead to reductions in drug-related budgets, an overall increase in drug use with a shift towards cheaper drugs. Because we all know that the world is experiencing an economic crisis, okay, so there would be a shift towards cheaper drugs. So there would be an increase in drug use, but there would be a shift towards cheaper drugs. So if we're going to review the goal, why are we doing substance use prevention? The overall or the ultimate aim of our prevention interventions is to keep our children, our young people, and the larger population healthy and safe. So please remember those 2 words. We would like our people to be healthy and safe so that they would be able to realize their talents and potentialities. So remember, the most important investment is investing in people's health. Okay? And of course, our objective is to be able to reduce, okay, substance use so that we will be able to minimize, okay, people who are using substances, and if they're already using, to prevent them from being substance use, prevent them from having substance use disorders. So prevent them from starting to use. If they're already using, prevent further progression to substance use disorder. Let's go back to the standards. So these are the international standards on drug use prevention, right? So I have picked the most important skills because I know that many of you are not only educators but are also parents. So for parenting skills, it's very important to enhance family bonding and provide skills for warm child rearing, setting rules for acceptable behavior, monitoring free time and friendship patterns. So please don't forget to monitor your children's behavior. Know their friends. Know what they are doing online. And of course, positive and developmentally appropriate discipline. Okay, give tough love. As Asek Matibag stressed, it's very important to be clear in our guidelines and rules at home regarding non-use of substances and involvement in children's learning and education. So you need to be involved. I know that because we are doing remote learning now, many parents are personally involved in their children's education. And very important, become role models. Now, let's move on to school-based interventions. Let's review what should be the content of school-based interventions. It should have a combination of coping skills, personal skills, and social skills. The structure should be series of sessions. The delivery should be interactive. So no to lecture and other didactic approaches. It should be interactive. It should be a series of sessions. No one time, big time. There should be a booster session if possible. Principles, evidence-based principles. We don't use scare tactics, so no to fear arousal, and use of testimonials from former drug users. I stressed this during my first presentation, right? I shared with you an experience that I don't want to happen again. And preventive drug education should be culturally relevant, it should be holistic, and it should be integrated. Please don't forget, okay? These principles were actually from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, primarily from the director of the Prevention Office. And she stressed that the earlier, the better. So if we can give prevention program for pregnant women, better. So from womb until adulthood. So if we safeguard the health of the mother, then there is a very high probability that the child would be healthy and would be drug-free. So please invest in prevention as early as possible. And we also need to focus on development, not only on information. So information are just foundational knowledge. That's the starting point. But the emphasis should be on the development of positive attitudes towards non-use, and of course, the development of life skills. As I've stressed many times, refusal skills, assertiveness skills, communication, decision-making skills. And please remember this, it is never too late. Remember, prevention is a continuum. Okay, it's a continuum. So we would like to start as early as possible so that we will be able to develop your skills at a young age. But it is never too late to educate adults and even the older generation. It is never too late. Prevention is right across the developmental stages. And of course, we are promoting evidence-based programs. So our interventions, our prevention program should be based on science. It should be based on evidence. Okay? Because if we don't do that, then maybe we're just going to waste money and resources. And please remember, because there are a lot of vulnerabilities, it is also appropriate that we make use of different settings. So going back to the settings, there should be a program for families, for schools, for communities, and for workplaces. So going back to the strategies, you need to clearly target your population. Are you going to implement a program that is universal for the general population, selective, okay, for the high-risk groups, or indicated for the high-risk individuals? Varied settings, again, family, school, workplace, community, and you can also use media and combine it with the other prevention settings. So now, we are now going to the last part of this presentation. How do we reimagine preventive drug education in the new normal? So let's summarize. It should be contextualized and streamlined. So focus on the big ideas, okay? Because we are in a pandemic, we are using remote learning. Let's make it contextualized and streamlined. Focus on the big and most crucial principles, big concepts. Should be principle, standard, and goal-oriented. And very important, it should be adaptive and strategic. So these are the crucial elements that we need to consider in reimagining how to deliver preventive drug education in the new normal. So the Department of Education came up, okay, with the most essential learning competencies for preventive drug education, and I would like to highlight it here. So first is correct myths and misconceptions related to drug use. And remember, I stressed during my first presentation that we need to explain to our young people that majority are non-users and not the other way around. Majority are non-users. The norm is non-use. Second, discuss the consequences of drug use to the individual, the family, and society in general, so that our young people would really have this holistic, mindset, this holistic perspective that whatever they do would impact their family and the society in general. And number three, very important, practice life skills pertinent to living a healthy and drug-free life. Of course, emphasis on self-management, coping, social decision-making, assertiveness, and resistance skills. And lastly, justify the value of alternative lifestyles that are life-promoting and health-enhancing. So let me just stress this because some people, especially young people who are using substances, would say that it is their lifestyle. The drug-taking behavior is their lifestyle. So in order to counter that, we need to send the message that there are a lot of alternative lifestyles that are life-promoting and health-enhancing. And sometimes we need to deliver the message in a subtle way because we all know that young people don't like to be told. Okay? So put the prevention message in a subtle way. So the varied delivery modalities for the new normal would include different modalities, instructional modules, television, radio, of course, face-to-face, online, that's blended. Okay, so a mixture. It depends on the context. As you've seen in the different countries, some countries are still using face-to-face modality, the conventional or traditional ones. Most countries have already shifted to online. So I'm seeing that in the coming days, it's really going to be blended modality. Okay, so let me end by reminding you about this very important quotation from Kofi Annan. He said, drugs may have harmed many people, but poor government policies may have harmed many more. And if we're going to contextualize this to our prevention efforts, we can say that, okay, drugs may have harmed many people, but poorly implemented, programs, prevention interventions may have harmed many more. So let us remember that our good intentions are just starting points. We need to follow it through with evidence-based strategies and principles, and we need to have a very strong monitoring and evaluation mechanism in place. Because that's the only way that we can say that we are on the right track. So base our prevention programs and intervention should be based on research, it should be based on science, it should be based on what works. So before I say goodbye, please allow me to promote the project of the Office of the Vice President, or VP, Vice President Lenny Robredo, and the University of the Philippines College of Education. Kindly check the resources. You can just Google this, Bayanihan e-Eskwela. The UP College of Education and the OVP came up with very interesting materials for you. This is actually targeting teachers and parents, and we would like to invite you to check on these resources. And this may be the end of the NDEP webinar, but the UP College of Education is just starting our second run of our webinar series on education, resilience, and learning continuity in the time of COVID-19. And I am inviting you all to join us on Friday and Saturday. So on Friday, we have our faculty from the Educational Foundation, Philosophy of Education. They're going to talk about connecting the disconnect, philosophical perspectives on the education of the self with others during the pandemic. And on Saturday, we have our faculty from the social studies area. They're going to discuss teaching responsible netizenship amid the COVID-19 pandemic. So I hope that you will be able to join us at 10 a.m. on Friday and Saturday. So thank you so much, everyone. How do we say thank you in ASEAN countries? Orkon, Kobkon Krab, Salamat po, Kamon, Kyusuting Bade, Kobchay, Terima kasih. Thank you so much, everyone.
Maraming salamat po, Prof. Grace Duka-Pante ng UP College of Education at ng ASEAN Training Center for Preventive Drug Education. Prof. Grace, sobrang perfect na kayo po ang nag-open at nag-close ng ating webinar series. It was just like, for those who were joining us for the first time ngayong gabi, parang wala silang na-miss. Kasi basically, you walked us through again through the most important points na dapat matandaan at dapat ina-apply po namin as educators in DepEd in the context of teaching our learners and relating with our learners in the context of drug prevention. Thank you very much po, Doc. I also personally appreciate yung very challenging reminder ninyo po sa amin, no, sa ating lahat na gumagawa ng policies at nag-i-implement ng programs about drug education na connected to what you said in the first episode na sinabi po ninyo na if we are not careful, prevention can be harmful. And that's a very big opening statement for me at that time. Ngayon yung closing nyo, ang gandang reminder din, no, na yes, drug use can be harmful pero it can cause more harm pala if we do things without considering evidence and yung mga itinuro ninyo po sa amin at ng iba pa nating resource persons sa nakalipas na 10 weeks ng pagsasama-sama natin. Maraming salamat po. So to our viewers who are still with us, please don't leave. We have important announcements toward the end of this session. And at the same time, we have time with Prof. Grace Duka-Pante as our to answer some of our questions. Kung meron po kayo, go to the link that was shown to your screen earlier and we hope we can show it again now as we do our Q&A. Go to this link and share your feedback, share your questions. If you have, ito na yung last chance po natin to talk to Prof. Grace and last chance din natin at least for this year na bring up yung mga questions ninyo, concerns ninyo na hindi pa nasagot sa previous episodes. Meron po tayo ditong isang question, Prof. Grace. I think it's parang ang ganda rin itong pag-isipan. Sabi po ni Professor Melvin Bong A. Crisostomo, who is also a teacher at the DepEd Ilocos Norte, posible po bang matanggal totally ang illegal drugs?
Wow, that's actually a very challenging question. And I'm sure I'm not the right person to answer that. From an educator's perspective, we can just try our very best to plant the seed among our learners by, of course, giving them accurate information and developing their life skills. But really eradicating substance use is, it takes the whole nation to do that, okay? We as teachers, the parents, it should be a collaboration of everyone. And I think it is the moral obligation of every Filipino to take part in the campaign against substance use. This is an issue not only in the Philippines, but in the whole world. And I believe that every individual has a moral obligation to take part in the campaign. So if we do it together, maybe in the future.
All right. And Prof. Grace, I remember you are one of the consultants behind the crafting of our Philippine anti-drugs strategy.
Anti-illegal drug strategy, yes.
Anti-illegal drugs strategy. And one of the vision in the vision statement, it says about it talks about a drug-free Philippines, but you qualify that with a certain definition. Ano nga po ulit yun, Prof. Grace?
So thank you so much, Gian, for bringing that out. So the Philippine Anti-Illegal Drug Strategy, that's the National Drug Prevention and Control Plan of the country. And you are right that our ultimate goal is to have drug-free communities by 2022. We would like to be realistic that we can't really say that it's zero illegal drugs in the Philippines. We can't achieve that. And it's 2 years or less than 2 years from now, right? Because 2020 is about to end and that's 2022. But there are certain indicators that we have put into the pads that would help us in actually monitoring where we are right now. okay, compared to the baseline. And we are not using zero illegal drugs in the Philippines as an indicator for PADS. We're saying it's drug-free communities. And I think the PDEA and the PNP are also adhering to that in terms of these indicators. So when we say drug-free communities, the PDEA has very clear indicators for declaring that a particular barangay is drug-clear. Thank you so much, Gian.
Prof. Grace, ang galing lang din po na parang kung i-connect din natin sa lahat ng sinabi nyo even kanina, ano po talaga, it's really about kung ano yung kaya natin in our role and then we contribute to the bigger picture. But even in the strategy itself, it's the indicators that we are talking about. Kasi yun nga po, no, parang let's say ma-eliminate yung illegal drugs per se, there are legal drugs that can be abused. So there can still be addiction, there can still be things to prevent, especially kahit nawala yung illegal drugs at ang available lang ay yung legal drugs. So I think I like how you are grounding us back to our goal of ensuring the health of our learners and personnel in ways that we can, and in areas that we can. Kasi beyond that, maganda, may sinabi naman po kayo sa mga highlights ng lecture kanina, we can always join advocacy campaigns, we can always, may protest pa nga na part, no? Pero we can always participate in government initiatives, etc. But at the end of the day, we are in the classroom, and we have learners with us spending the most important, the most crucial period of their lives, yung developmental stages, no? Then they are with us. So what do we do with that precious opportunity entrusted to us? Yeah. So salamat po.
Thank you so much, Gian. I really like what you've said. Change can only come from within. We can only plant the seed of change in others. But changing ourselves, that would be the first step. And that would inspire a lot of other people. So I think this series of webinars, the Department of Education, okay, congratulations to the whole team. I know that you've done a great job since episode 1 and up until now. So congratulations and thank you so much everyone for joining me this evening.
Opo. Prof. Grace, Prof, pasensya na po, meron lang pong pahabol na tanong kung okay lang.
Sure.
Yun daw po bang mga comics po ng PDE, ng ATC PDE ay pwedeng i-share, tested effective at pwede po bang i-share? This is from our nurse in Region 6, Ma'am Nurse. Ma'am Rose.
Ma'am Rose, are you referring to the infographics produced by the ATC PDE during this pandemic? The 2 infographics are actually available online. You can check the UP College of Education website.
All right. Sige po, maraming salamat po, Prof. Grace. Yun lang po, humabol na tanong lang sa ating inbox. And thank you for, nagpaalam na rin kayo pala kanina, ma'am. Maraming salamat po, Prof.
Thank
Grace.
You so much.
Thank you
so
for
much,
spending
Gian.
this afternoon with us. Thank you po. All right, so thank you to our viewers. This is kind of a really exciting journey for all of us, a journey of learning and unlearning. Kasi tayo mismo merong mga baon-baong natutunan kung saan meron tayong alam tungkol sa drug prevention, tapos yun na yung ginagawa natin. But many of us as science, because this is science, we evolve according to the evidence. So nagbabago. So depende sa ating konteksto, sa pinaka-latest na impormasyon na meron tayo, ay pwede nating baguhin, i-unlearn yung mga nakasanayan na, and then let's adapt and let's share let's do what evidence says is nagwo-work. And yun yung gagawin natin given our new knowledge or new information pagdating sa drug prevention. So I would like to share my own takeaways if it's okay. Let's just one slide lang to share what personally I am taking away from the 10 episodes na ating pinagsama-samahan. And this is my own takeaway synthesizing the 10 episodes na meron tayong mga resource persons who joined us. Personally, and I hope meron din kayo mga sarili niyong notes, no? But I would like to take this opportunity to share that in my based on the listening dun sa mga natutunan natin, no, at the center of everything that we are doing is the human person. Whether this is the small group of people who are using drugs or the bigger group of the population who are not using drugs. At the center of everything that we do is the human person. The learner, the personnel, is a fellow human being. Yung sinabi ni Prof. Grace kanina, may emotions, may dreams, and whatever we experience, na-experience din nila. And that's something that we always remember. And what I take away also is that this human person is situated in multiple interconnected factors and systems that influence his or her behavior. So merong iba-ibang nagiging dahilan. No single narrative ang pwede nating i-apply na, person who uses drugs, ganito siya, and may label. Ang daming factors, ang daming salasalabat na mga dahilan bakit sila na-engage sa paggamit sa drugs and other risky behaviors, not only in drug use, kasi parang related na rin siya sa mental health at yung iba pa nating pinag-usapan. And because of this complexity, we approach drug prevention and drug education through evidence. Yung paulit-ulit sina Pastor LJ, sina Prof. Grace, si Doc Dumlao, si Ma'am Girly, evidence-based, evidence-based, evidence-based. Does it work? Will it not cause more harm? Will it really protect people? And based naman din dun sa parang laging binabalikan even ni Sir Santi, ni Prof, our speaker about mental health. Now we approach, because we're dealing with human persons in a very complex situation, then we approach this situation with compassion. So evidence weighed in by compassion. Compassion, hindi lang puro compassion, evidence din, what works. And we do this in a bigger, broader context of a positive climate or positive relationships. I personally enjoyed the opportunity po na ibinigay sa akin personally to listen to the resource persons and ask them your questions. So kasama po ninyo ako at ang rest of the School Health Division na ating behind the scenes na natuto sa mga pinag-usapan po ng ating mga resource persons. So let me just share. This is my personal takeaway. Kayo po, ano ang takeaway ninyo? I encourage you to also draw, to just write it on your notebook and maybe keep it with you always as you do tasks or work related to drug education and preventive drug education. So let me just again close with some reminders, pero wag po kayong aalis pa. May important announcement po tayo sa dulo ng ating webinar session ngayon. So again, if you still have questions, nandito po ang link. Kung ngayon lang kayo nanood, make sure that you are registered para makapunta po kayo sa DepEd Professional Development Learning Management System where you can take the quiz and get your certificate. And also, sabi natin, mamayang 8 p.m. available na ang ating certificate for tonight's session. But as we say, ang makukuha lang natin per episode is the certificate of attendance. Ang makukuha po natin pag nakumpleto yung 10, na ipasa yung 10 exit quizzes, at maipasa ang ating final exam and evaluation form ay certificate of completion. Ngayon, mamaya available na po ang exit quiz. But the certificate of completion will still be available tomorrow. So bukas pa po kayo pwedeng mag-evaluate at mag-exam so that we give everyone time to access the exit quiz, the final exam, and the evaluation form. And in consideration po ng ating mga kasamahan na nakasama natin sa start ng broadcast but may be having difficulty in watching now dahil po sa internet connections affected ng calamity, we are making available all the previous recordings, exit quizzes of the previous episodes, the final exam and the evaluation form starting tomorrow, November 18, until December 31, 2020. So you have time to really review, pass the exit quizzes and the final exam, balik-balikan yung lecture. Very helpful yung lecture tonight kasi summarize talaga siya nung previous episodes po natin. So announcement lang din po, in-announce natin ito last week. We said na meron po tayong ongoing letter writing for tobacco control contest. In-open po natin ulit ito earlier this month at mag-e-end hanggang November 30. Please join us in this contest. Encourage your learners. Pwede nyo rin pong balikan yung ating webinar workshop. Nandito po sa memo na ma-access ninyo sa link na nasa inyong screen yung inyo pong yung details about this activity. And of course, ito na po ang ating last episode. So we are really thankful for to everyone who became part of this journey with us. Nakasama po natin. We have our colleagues from the Dangerous Drugs Board, from the ASEAN Training Center for Preventive Drug Education outside DepEd. But inside DepEd, marami po tayong mga kasama, and we would like to acknowledge them and ipakilala rin sila sa inyo personally. Ayan. So, are they ready? Ayan. So gusto lang po nating magpasalamat sa atin pong mga kasama sa ICTS. Every week, hindi nyo man po nakikita behind the scene, nagto-troubleshoot, inaayos yung mga connection issues, ino-onboard ng ating resource persons, ino-orient about what to do. And ginagawa niya yan while also juggling other tasks niya sa kanyang office. Let's thank Sir Mark Anthony Papa. Sir Mark, maraming salamat po. Kumusta po kayo dyan? Let's also thank Sir Lindon Balcorta and Johnson Cabrera of the Public Affairs Service. Yung po mga posters na nakikita ninyo every week. Hi Johnson. Pwede pala tayo magsalita. Ayan, si Johnson at si Lindon po, they are part of the Creative Management Unit of the Department of Education, and they are in charge of our Facebook page, of the posts that you see there. And it's really a tedious job and very relevant job sa new normal. From the School Health Division, syempre kasama po natin ang nagtatanong kayo about exit quiz, about certificates. We have Miss Michelle Ann Roquino, one of our staff at the School Health Division. Hi, Mitch. Nakamute ka, Mitch. Wala ka bang babatiin? And also, of course, our NDEP coordinator, Ma'am Girlie Azurin. Ma'am Girlie. And then Dr. Dumlao, our School Health Division Chief. Kasama pa rin natin si Dr. Dumlao. Kumakaway na lang po siya from behind. Ayan. So these are the people. Ayan na, si Lindon. Nice. So maraming salamat po sa bawat isa na naging bahagi, and of course to our school health and nutrition personnel sa field, our youth formation coordinators, our BKD and NDEP coordinators, everyone else po na naging bahagi pa po natin sa activity na ito for disseminating the information, and of course kayo po sa bawat isa na nanood po every Tuesday faithfully. Maraming salamat po sa inyo. Would you like to share any word ba sa mga kasama ko sa screen? Hindi na. Sige, thank you very much. Before we end, kanina nagpakita po tayo ng videos ng inyong mga learning, and due to some technical difficulty, hindi po natin narinig yung sinabi ng ating mga kasama. But we would like to take this opportunity at the end of this broadcast to show again those videos. Pakinggan nyo po. Marami po tayo na natutunan. Kayo mismo, marami kayong natutunan. Let's listen to 3 of our faithful viewers every week who shared their learnings and paano nila na-i-apply ang kanilang natutunan. Ms. Mitch, okay na ba? All right, let's watch that. And we'll end with that. Maraming salamat po. See you again sa susunod.
However, prevention is better than cure. Through the appropriate, suitable teaching and guidance of parents in the right information and with the support of school and community surround him. While the child is still young, start inculcating their mind about the preventions of drugs or no to drugs. In order, when they grow up, they have the knowledge about it. Knowledge begins at home, and health is wealth. However,
The NDEP Webinar series was indeed a splendid experience. It helped me discover and learn about the various evidence-based substance use interventions based on the UNODC International Standards on Drug Abuse Prevention. The school plays a very important role in drug demand reduction. It is very important to have school policies and improved school culture and climate for the holistic and comprehensive development of every learner. In our own respective workplaces, substance use prevention is very significant to maintain a good relationship among the workforce and become productive. As a parent, this NDEP webinar series helped me realize that being a good parent is not enough.
but instead, I must be a responsible one. It is very vital to have an open communication with our children. Teach them on the different ways how to say no or refuse substance use and how to choose their companions and friends. At this juncture, I would like to extend my sincerest gratitude to the resources speakers who imparted their expertise and different perspective on substance use prevention. Of course, to our DepEd School Health Division headed by our active and dynamic Chief, Dr. Maria Corazon Dumlao, and to all the people behind this NDEP webinar series. In behalf of the DepEd Cotabato Division School Health Section, I am Glenn Binar, RN, the Division NDEP Coordinator, saying thank you and keep safe, everyone.
Good afternoon. Sa akin pong pagdalo sa NDEP Webinar Series, ay narealize ko po na napakalawak pala ng NDEP. Marami po kami mga natutunan, kami po mga health personnel, gayon din po ang mga guro, magulang at mag-aaral. Tumatak po sa aking puso na there is life after substance use, kaya dapat po natin mahalin at bigyang pansin ang mga kabataan na nagkaroon ng problema tungkol po sa usapin ng drugs. Salamat po sa DLSS sa pagkakataon na kami po ay makadalo sa NDEP Webinar Series. Thank you.